Hello, BookTube. I have a little mail for you today. I don't know how it got here since the sidewalks are completely ice rinks. It's cold here in Boston, and it's going to be cold for days. This is decidedly weird. It's decidedly strange that you go outside in Boston and you're uncomfortable. But some mail did come. We have a couple of packages and a periodical. We have the New Yorker, this lovely cover here. The cover is by Pascal Campion. It's called Winter Sun. I really like the fact that there's a particular cast to Winter Sun in northeastern cities, and this, I think, really captures that cast. The one thing I don't like about it seems to me to be a photo overlay. I think on a computer it would be fairly easy to make this kind of thing. I could be wrong about that. Maybe I'm falling prey to my kid could do it. There's an interesting letter in this issue about America's sometimes draconian law enforcement codes. I want to read you that. This is from a writer in Mapleton, Iowa. In Sarah Stillman's recent story, she describes America's draconian use of what has become known as the felony murder rule, in which any participant in a crime committed as a group, for instance a robbery, can be prosecuted for any death that occurs while the crime is being carried out. Her piece takes up the case of Sadiq Baxter, who set out to steal from some parked cars with a friend and was promptly arrested. His friend fled the scene in a vehicle, ran a red light, and killed two cyclists. Even though Baxter couldn't have been expected to foresee these two deaths as an outcome of his theft, he was charged with and convicted of first-degree murder. He's now serving life sentence without parole. In a case that's well chosen as an argument crux, since we can all agree that is a miscarriage of justice. The felony murder rule has a place in criminal jurisprudence. Armed participants in, say, a bank robbery typically understand that a death may ensue from their actions. In such cases, it makes sense that all are held accountable. But in cases like Baxter's, it's clear that prosecutors are failing to uphold the ethical standards of their profession. It is the duty of a prosecutor not to convict, but to ensure justice. Prosecutors have a degree of discretion in how they file charges, and they should refrain from using the felony murder rule in cases where a reasonable person couldn't foresee the death of a human being as a result of their actions. Entirely agree. Don't often entirely agree with a letter in the New Yorker. I will try here not to make that a segue to Florida, to one of the felony trials currently, the felony cases currently pending against the former President Donald Trump, who on right-wing TV is referred to exclusively as President Trump, and on left-wing TV is referred to as former President Donald Trump. And the reason why is because A, he's a former president, and B, every single person who refers to him as President Trump, every single person, all the way from his idiot lawyer, Alina Habababa, in court, all the way down to any random Trump cult member on the streets of Iowa or New Hampshire, anyone who refers to him as President Trump is part of a Facebook or an online chat group that has determined ahead of time to use that terminology to refer to the fact that they don't believe Joe Biden is a legitimate president. They're not according him a courtesy title at all. And I have urged many times, I have asked many times, if you are on a mainstream television program, a cable television program, if you're on a program and you have a guest and the guest says President Trump, stop the interview and ask them, is Joe Biden currently the legitimate elected president of the United States? They will say no, or they will equivocate. The equivocation that they are most agreed on, these conversations are recoverable. They do exist. And the equivocation that they're most agreed on, it's the one you'll hear most often, is that they will, when questioned like that, they will immediately say, listen, look, smell, taste, touch. Joe Biden is in the White House. They will say that sentence. Never anything but that sentence. They will say that exact sentence. Look, listen, touch, taste, feel. Joe Biden is in the White House. And that is usually enough for the blow-dried, bubble-headed bleach blonde that's talking to them. That's usually enough for them. They know perfectly well, but the same kind of chat groups that I'm talking about, they know perfectly well. Their investigative reporters have been in those chat groups. Those chat groups are instructed to say, look, Joe Biden is in the White House. That's not an answer to the question. Is it ever asked? Is there ever a follow-up? The interview should stop. When anyone uses the words President Trump, the interview should stop. The interview now has a new subject. Are you delusional? Because if so, I don't want to hear the rest of what you have to say, even if it's weird fascist talking points. I don't want to hear any of it. I just want to talk about your delusion. Are you saying that Trump is president of the United States? And you are, of course, saying that. But I'm going to try not to segue from that to the Florida case, where Donald Trump stole the most secret, most classified documents, intelligence documents that the United States produces. Things where human lives were on the line and human lives were lost. He stole those documents. He hid them from prosecutors. He hid them from searches. He still has a huge number of them, especially involving intelligence assets against Russia. And he has fenced them on the international market for huge amounts of money, and those transactions are recoverable too. And he has a Trump cult judge, which is the only reason when you watch cable news you will hear about fraud trials in New York, you will hear about Jack Smith, but you won't hear about Florida. You won't hear about the documents case because the judge has effectively stalled it. Unless she is barred from the case, then she will bury the case in which Trump has done the most damage. This is the case that cost people lives. Intelligence operatives for the United States have died as a result of what he's done. Directly traceable. In intelligence communities, they say it outright. They say it openly. Yeah, they were blown, and that was it. They are gone. We're never going to see them again. They're gone. And that's because of that. It's because that intelligence became known. And there's only one way that it could have become known, and only one person who could have done it. That's the most serious case, and the reason that you don't hear about it on the news is because the judge is in on it. The judge is protecting her friend. She's protecting her patron. Hoping, I guess, what everyone in mainstream media is hoping, that if I sell my soul now, maybe my family will get to live in 2026. Anyway, I said I wouldn't segue, and then I did. I want to show you a couple of cartoons here that I have objections to, believe it or not. Sometimes I have objections to New Yorker cartoons. There's one. A squirrel is showing another squirrel his cell phone. For some reason, the artist here has not drawn the tails of the squirrels. They instead just dotted lines with color. No idea. Maybe that's designed to make them look fluffy. You can actually do that yourself with your pen. But the caption is, it's an app where you can record all the acorns you try and also see what acorns your friends are eating. And the clear implication of the cartoon is that it's meant to be a commentary on the vapidity of human beings, on how shallow they are, how, humans would do a thing like that. Of course, squirrels wouldn't do a thing like that. And that caption could only be written by someone who's never met a squirrel. If you made an app like that for them, on terms that they could understand, they would use it like crazy. They're the most obsessive creatures in the world. They would use that app like crazy. So the joke goes a little awry to me because it's very human-centric. But then there's this. A couple falling down an endless shaft with food all around them. And the caption is, "Let's do bottomless brunch," you said. "It'll be fun," you said. And we'll leave out here the sadness, the disappointment of a New Yorker caption just repeating a meme. Get a X, they said. It'll be fun, they said, is a meme on Twitter, on social media. You would have to hope, I would have to hope, that whoever wrote this caption for a New Yorker cartoon, for Pete's sake, a century of tradition, didn't get paid for it, since they didn't invent anything. They just ripped off a meme. But I also want to point out, bottomless brunch, it's one of the only true indicators of a just and benign God. If I had a car, if I knew how to drive and I had a car, I would find a bottomless brunch every week. It's one of the few things, it and Target. These are two things you really need a car to enjoy. And I don't have a car, I don't know how to drive, never sat behind the wheel of a car in my life. But if I did, or if I had a friend nearby with a car, I would go to a bottomless brunch every week. I view all you can eat, phrases like all you can eat or bottomless brunch, as personal challenges. And I was raised and socialized by a species that never stops eating if you give it a chance. Except for the one that I have now, who's very diva about her food. But I was raised and socialized by people whose idea of food is keep eating. Oh, until you're full? No. Just keep eating. Just keep eating. Eating is fun. Just keep eating. Which is why I have drawn alarmed looks from the kitchen at some places I've gone to that have all-you-can-eat breakfast buffets. After 2 hours, I have drawn alarmed looks from the kitchen, Is it true? Can we open the little service door and take a look? Is it true that one guy has been eating nonstop for 2 hours? But I don't get to do that because I don't have a car. But anyway, we've digressed enough here. Let's get to the mail. We have two packages here. They aren't very big. Nothing in the way here of the blockbuster kind of titles that I'm waiting for. There are a couple of blockbuster titles that I'm waiting for. What is this first one? Don't really know. Well, anyway, let's look at it. This is by Lawrence McDonald, and it is called Am I Too Old to Save the Planet? A Boomer's Guide to Climate Action. How wonderful. Am I too old to save the planet? Well, there are plenty of things you can do at any age. You can't save the planet. The tipping point has already been passed. Science reporting doesn't want to really make that known because they don't want people to just stop caring altogether. You can still mitigate, but the catastrophic climate emergency is coming. There's nothing. I know we talk a lot about 2% or about carbon recapture or whatnot. That's all over with. So now it's a question of mitigation, and I understand why people wouldn't want to stress that point, because then people, the public would not want to even bother with mitigation, which will just make things worse. But what have we got here? I don't have a sheet for this thing. This book explains how America's most promising generation allowed climate change to become a planetary emergency and what to do about it now. A former foreign correspondent and vice president of the World Resource Institute, Lawrence McDonald shares his journey to becoming a passionate climate activist. Packed with practical advice, his book invites fellow boomers to join the growing global movement to save the planet. Oh, how interesting. Well, I should stress, what we always do, which is that the planet is not in danger. When people say that, what they mean is human comfort. And human comfort is not only in danger, it's doomed. It's absolutely doomed. In very little time, huge sections of places where humans live will not be livable. Huge sections. I know that if you don't follow the subject, you might think, oh, well, sure, some godforsaken part of Malawi or something like that. No. I'm talking about Tempe, Arizona, which has no water. No nearby aquifers, no still existing rivers, no nothing. No water at all. Imagine building a gigantic complex city like Tucson with no water, with no water at all. So you can't have agriculture and you can't have drinking water, bathing water, anything like that, unless you bring it all in. And no city can do that. Those are the places that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some sun-parched area of Pakistan or something like that. Although all of those places made the news last year, which was the hottest year on record. It broke the record from the year before that, and that broke the record from the year before that. Last year was the hottest year on record, and a lot of those places made the news for reaching 145, 150 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of the day. The human body cannot work in those temperatures. The human body cannot move around in those temperatures. In those temperatures, you are dying, even if you're inside, in cool, and hydrating. You are still going to die. And you can't. Of course, the places that are most affected by those kinds of temperatures are precisely the places that don't have the luxury of staying indoors and cool all day long. Large parts of human occupation, of the human-occupied world, are going to reach a point this coming summer where they're going 30, 40 days of the American Southwest in 2023. How long? 30, 40 days where it was triple-digit temperatures at 3 in the morning. In the middle of the night, it was still triple-digit temperatures. That had the huge infrastructure of America behind it, but that's not tenable, even with the huge infrastructure of America. And the huge infrastructure of America does not exist in most other places that will be affected. So, saving the planet? No. But mitigation is everything now. Mitigation is the whole name of the game. And this is the generation, the boomer generation, the so-called boomer generation, are the least likely to know a lot of those ways of mitigation. So good on this book. Good on this book for spreading the word. No hint from this thing. This is going to be a $16 paperback. Might be a good thing to get for the boomers in your life, or to read yourself. But no hint here of when this comes out. No. I just read the back of the book. We didn't have any identifying information on it. And then we'll do this next one. And then we'll be done. Oh, gross. All right, that's an invoice. I don't need an invoice. What do we got here? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, this is late getting to me. Is that true? Or did this have a change in its publication date? Oh my god, no. Okay. No, it didn't. This is just weird. That's all. These things happen. These things definitely happen. This is a November release. Not next November, which is almost within the range of what we're getting on this channel, but last November. This is by Scott Martell, and it is called 1932, FDR, Hoover, and the Dawn of a New America. So keyhole history, 1 year. Voters were facing one of the most consequential elections in U.S. history. For the average American, it was a struggle to have enough money to cover basic needs like food, bills, rent, and mortgages. There was rising social unrest due to sharp economic disparities, wide-scale financial institution failure, the hints of weather-related calamity via the early gusts of the Dust Bowl, and the increasingly ominous international picture of rising fascism in Europe. A populace of millions marginalized by race and poverty, farmers facing foreclosures, organized hate groups emerging as political forces, a public figure, not a political figure, on the national ballot, and an incumbent who appeared incapable of handling a nation in a dangerous downward spiral. But it's not 2024, it's 1932. In this book, the author deftly takes this pivotal year in American history and weaves its significant movements and actions of that year into a stirring narrative of a nation on the cusp of a new era amid political and economic turmoil. And it takes a month-by-month kind of newsreel approach. So it sounds like it will be really good. Do I know this author? Do I know you at all? Veteran journalist and former member of the LA Times editorial board. Author of 6 previous works of nonfiction. Okay, what were those? What were those? I feel like I know your name. Oh, you're not going to tell me. No, you're not going to tell me, because this is an uncorrected proof. I don't believe it. I'm going to look this up. It's possible that this was delayed. The pub sheet would have been written months ago. The book would have been printed months ago. So it's possible that the dates that are printed on these things are wrong. Why would I be getting a November book at the end of January? Why would that be happening? You have to think that maybe the publication date got pushed back on this. So we will see. Drawing the parallels, boy, even the Mail wants to get me ranting here. Yeah, in 1932, if you had asked Franklin Delano Roosevelt, if you lose the election, will you concede? He would have said yes. Okay? In private, he would have said yes with expletives. In private, he would have said, what on earth are you bleepity-bleep thinking? What are you even implying? Of course I will concede. Of course I will. This is America. So we're not talking about exact equivalences here, okay? Not exactly. The non-political public figure who is standing as a candidate for president, a prohibitive candidate for the nomination of his party, has already said that he intends to be a dictator, that he wants to eradicate the Constitution, and that the election will be fraudulent. Even if he wins, the election will be fraudulent. This is a person who has never, as far as he's concerned, experienced a legitimate election. He says that every election he's ever been a part of has been fraudulent, even the one he won. So it's not exactly equivalent. Okay, it's not exactly equivalent. I know that FDR had his opponents in the day who would have said that the New Deal was fascism. But anyway, so we have the mail, the little amount of mail that we got to in between all of the rants and raves was nonfiction. Am I Too Old to Save the World, to Save the Planet, and 1932, a keyhole history of 1 year, plus the New Yorker with a wintry cover, which once upon a time, even a week ago, if I'd got this cover, my rant would have been, oh, isn't that a little bit anachronistic? We don't have winter anymore. But I had to look it up. The condition of this low level of kinetic energy in the atmosphere is called cold. It is cold in Boston. And it's supposed to last. It's supposed to stick around. It's supposed to get even this weekend a little colder. When that shouldn't be... I'm okay with an episode of this thing called cold, provided we go back to normal. Our normal setting is 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and absolutely no moisture of any kind, including dew. That is the way it always is. That's the way it's been for the last 100,000 years. The idea that that pattern would be disrupted, okay, I expect it to be disrupted in the summer when we'll have several triple-digit days, although last summer we didn't. The rest of the country baked and broiled, but Boston did not. That'll have. We'll get our revenge. We'll have a brutal summer this year. I expect that kind of variation, but not this. But I don't get to have that rant. Instead, the only mild rant I have here is that I think this was technologically assisted. This cover, something about this runner, just makes me think that this was a picture that was morphed by some sort of computer program. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, what a 6s and 7s sprawling everywhere mail haul. Sorry about that. I'll put a warning in the title so you can just ignore it. The important thing of the videos today is to warn you, to let you know that Sarah at the Bookish Knitter and I are doing a live stream on Saturday together about romance novels. If that's not a primo invitation, then I don't know what is. We're doing a live stream at noon on Saturday. If you go to her channel, you'll see, I'm sure there's already a placeholder video for there as a reminder to you. You should come on over at noon on Saturday and let us tempt you. Let us try and pry your reading mind open, especially if you're a romance snob. If you're a reading snob. If you're a reading snob, you won't read romance at all. And even if your snobbery on romance has wavered a little, maybe I've hammered away at it over the years, or Sarah has, it'll still be very much there for Harlequin romances, for category romance. Maybe let us see what we can do about that. That'll be a lot of fun. As to the rest of the mail, more might come. But the sidewalks everywhere here are skating rinks. I don't know how anyone's delivering anything. Anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, whatever this was, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.